Hello and welcome back. Let's get back to modeling and doing stuff because that's always important. So we got down to the hips and things are looking pretty good. We won't be able to get stuff to look amazing just yet, probably until we start to get a leg in place, and then all this stuff can kind of be tweaked out. So if you're thinking, oh, this doesn't look like the very best rump I've ever seen, don't worry about that right now. It's way too early to stress that sort of thing. Now, before we move too much further away, though, there are some things I do want to kind of implement, I guess you could look at. Essentially, what I want more than anything is a little more detail down the front of the body. In short, I want this edge loop. However, things are getting way too close together back here at the back, so I need to fix that. The way I'm going to do that is to switch over to edges. Let's grab this edge loop, Control E, and grab edge slide. I'll slide this way forward. Same thing here. So I just did a Shift R to pull that up. And here, let me just see if I can just move this actually. I'm going to let it kind of, well, no, I thought I would do that, but now I'm not. About like so. And then let's grab probably just these guys, and same thing. So to about there. Then I got to switch over to vertices and just start pulling verts around. So there's actually a lot of work to do here. But I don't want to get too carried away at the tweaking stage just yet. This is the Blender BuzzNet, for somebody who wanted to know. Is there a C-sharp class tonight?
What C-sharp one are you looking for?
Yeah,
No.
I didn't think there was a C-sharp class tonight.
It was F-sharp earlier.
Yeah, that's right. And we could probably pull this down. We may end up beveling this anyway, Gavin, and that should make you feel a lot better.
Hey, your model, your rules.
And let's hit Control R and add that edge loop in. So now I've got some work to do all the way down the model. See, what I was looking for is more detail in the front, and of course it has to wrap around to the back. Now, that doesn't mean you absolutely have to have detail going all the way around to the back. You could actually anchor that off to a triangle somewhere at the base of the groin if you really, really wanted to. That sort of thing has certainly been done before, but I'm trying to avoid as much of that as I can this early on in the game. Let's see here. Let me turn off my subdivision surface and go over to X-ray and stay in the side view if I can without falling into too much Maya navigation syndrome, which is always funny when that happens. So we'll kind of flatten out the front by pulling these vertices a little more closely together. Zoom in here and kind of bring these down as well. Get some nicer curvature there. Essentially all I'm doing is going vertex by vertex and breaking that straight line, because you don't want to keep it. I probably have to read.
That's the key thing about what Zach was saying earlier about once you've inserted a loop, the first thing you're going to want to do is move them. Mm-hmm. Because basically you're literally defining that as being a flat surface by putting that line there.
Right. That's generally a bad thing.
That is done by the loop tool.
I love how you've got that kind of trailing air hiss whenever you speak, Gavin. So you're like, you'll make your point, and then it's just kind of hiss. Stop. I don't know.
That would be my fan.
I know, it's great. It's such a nice little punctuation to whatever it is you're saying. Now, what I'm doing here, actually, let me undo that real quick, is I am just grabbing some vertices here, and I'm just pulling them back to kind of line things back up. It looks like in all that edge sliding, we kind of got away from our shape. It's common, nothing to worry about, but it does require that we fix that.
Proportional editing help here?
Probably. I felt like I could see exactly the vertices that I wanted, so I just started grabbing them that way. But yeah, you could certainly grab like maybe a couple of verts here, turn on proportional editing, hit G, and then just adjust your radius accordingly to get what you feel like you need. Maybe something about like so. And proportional editing is always great for organics. Now I feel like we're starting to get enough detail here where if we really wanted to, we could probably start pulling the surface out toward the drawing. So I'll do that and just kind of tug that out a little more. It's about there. Same thing here and here. Okay. And then always important to take just a moment and take a look at your model and just kind of see how things are coming along. Now again, it's very, very early in the process, but I think we're starting to get some nice flow to what it is we're putting together. Let me jump over to the front view and take a look at a couple of things. Something that, I mean, we've got a pretty nice little crease going on here at the thigh, groin region. That's okay. We could make it a little more pronounced, I feel like, if we just really, really wanted to. Let me hit O and pull this up a little bit. But I feel like maybe it's not time to worry about that. We can get to that when we start building some legs. Now would probably be a good time for us to move up the body and get some of the chest, shoulder area done, which would be very cool. And here's how we're going to do this. I have 3 edges right here at the front of the body, and we're going to kind of wrap these up and around. Maybe, well, I could maybe just get away with 2, but let me just see about using 3 for starters. I can always change my mind later. That's a great thing about B-mesh and the use of N-gons. But I'll begin by just snugging these vertices kind of up around the line of the underside of the bosom. Pull these around so I get a nice flow up to that area. I will probably be adding some more detail in here, maybe beveling one of these edges, but again, we'll take that as it comes. So Control-Tab-E, edge, edge, edge. And I'll just hit an E to extrude, and we'll jump to, say, I don't want to add too much too quickly, so let's just do 1 here, and then we'll extrude up the front of the chest to about there. Does it matter if we have the exact number of verts horizontally? No, I wouldn't think so. Though you've got so much left to do between now and then. Really what you want is to have all of the edges that designate the front of the torso, because what we're creating is really a surface, like not individual breasts so much as when a woman is wearing a unitard and you don't get too much division in between the breasts, maybe just a small indented area. Now that does keep us from having to carve out each breast individually, and that will make things a lot easier for us. And so for that, all I've done is grab these edges at the front, extrude up, and then go. Now, it just so turns out that I have 3 edges at the back as well, and that's kind of convenient really, and that doesn't always happen, but that's okay. Let's extrude these up once, and then up 1 more time. So I'm matching the number of extrusions. You don't have to do that. That doesn't need to be a hard and fast rule, but in a lot of ways it will make several things a lot easier on you if you can manage. I'm going to switch to vertices, however, and kind of pull these around a little bit. I need to check the front view, and let's go into wireframe view. Now, just to make it a little easier to see what's front and what's back, let me do this. I'll grab the ones at the back, and I'm just going to pull them down and out of the way. Come over here to the front view. Gav, are you trying to unmute?
No?
Oh, okay. Sorry. I just heard some air popping. Thought it might be you. All right. And I'll pull this out to the corner of the shoulder, space these out accordingly. Actually, let's maybe pull them down to about here. So just underneath the corner of the shoulder. Pull this out about like so. We can spread this out as well. Push this in a little bit. And then at the front, I mean, if that's what it looks like in the front view, we could just pull these forward to kind of coincide with the shape. So it looks like it's resting on the front of the chest. We'll pull these up so they seem to coincide with a similar position on the back. Then, let's see, let's grab edges, and I'll just grab the front edge and the back edge and hit F. And the front edge and the back edge and hit F. I can hit Control R and lay an edge loop in between those. jump over to the side view and move that, and we're already starting to kind of designate a shoulder, which is very nice. So let's jump over to the front view and clean that up a little. So with vertices, I'll just kind of start outlining that a little bit. Okay. So it's rough geometry, of course, but it's getting something in place. So we can kind of see what it is. I mean, it does start to look kind of like a leotard, which is what we're really going for. So here's a quick ready check for folks to catch up. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is kind of start to close up the gap for where the arm is. So to do that, let me switch over to edges. We'll grab edge, edge, and edge. Just hit E and pull this up a little bit. Jump over to vertices, Alt-M, and at last. And then just Shift-R to repeat. And I can space these out a little bit. Now, obviously we're going to need some more detail to make stuff look nicer than it does now. So let me see, I'm going to add an edge loop here to the lower portion of the bosom. We'll switch over to the side view, and we can start immediately kind of cleaning this up a bit. I wouldn't stress too much getting that indentation between the breasts just right yet, because, well, you don't really have much to work with right now anyway, so. Also, as you get around the side of the breast area, your topological flow should start to smooth out a bit. I do try to warn people from having too much of a change in direction along the lines of their topology if they don't have to, but keep in mind that at this point, the geometry itself, the surface of the character, is changing direction. You're going up the belly, up the ribcage, and then boom, suddenly there's a breast in your way, so you got to start to come out in a different direction. It's just what happens. I have seen folks, though, who are just getting started, who they get a little carried away by the fact that they don't want their geometry to change direction, and so they'll start trying to smooth things out. And you can't do that if you actually have a real change in direction on the surface. So just be aware of that sort of thing. Now, we do have an interesting area where we've got to kind of solve how the front of the chest sort of flattens back out. So here's how I'm going to handle this for now. We're going to hit Control-R and bring in an edge loop like so. I'll hit G and kind of pull that out a little bit. We can start moving some vertices. And we could probably get away, at least for the time being, with extrude this up. Switch over to vertices, grab these two, and I don't really care how they merge. They can just merge at center. That's fine. And
just...
Go ahead.
Sorry. I was going to say, back there where you're in the side view, I just looked at that and thought I would almost bring that row of verts up as far as the collarbone. The one closest to it. No, the next lot up. Yeah.
It almost is, isn't it?
It's that close that...
Oh, you mean pull this row all the way up?
No, that top row. If you go into the side view, proper side view with the picture.
Oh, go ahead and pull this all the way up.
Yeah.
Sure. I haven't been looking up that far yet. I mean, we could go ahead and do that. So just kind of start to trace out where the collarbone's going to be. It's not too soon.
Sorry, it just caught my eye.
Yeah, it's fine. All right, and then I'm going to split this here, and I'm going to tentatively put a triangle. I think it's the first one of the night, right in here.
Boo.
We can get rid of it. We're just not going to get rid of it right now. Actually, in the end, what we can end up doing is we could probably pull it into the arm, and it won't be a triangle anymore. As a matter of fact. Ooh, but it is lining up pretty nicely. I'll give it that. Just for a little bit of serendipity. And I don't really want things to have that much of a gap, so we need to kind of clean up in this direction. Make sure that we don't have too much indentation at the back of the rib cage. We could probably pull this down. So it's almost like it's starting to flow a little bit with where the ribs would flow along the back, and that allows us to sort of straighten this out. So we're not getting too much crowding up here just yet. Now, one thing about spinal columns, you can indent them all the way up, but generally speaking, a lot of folks' spines, especially as they get skinnier and skinnier, will actually have a little bit of protrusion as you get up toward the top of the spine. So you can kind of start to fake that at this stage if you wanted to by just indenting the next row up. And the surface will generally cooperate with you. And you can see kind of what that's starting to do. I mean, that's not perfect by any means. We still got a long ways to go, but it's just kind of showing you how we go from a protruding spine into an indentation as we move down the body. And let's go over to the side view, and oh yeah, we've got a long way to actually pull out here. Let me switch over to proportional editing, actually, and just kind of tug things back. Okay. And if we come over here to the side view, or I'm sorry, this is not the side view, by the way. Incidentally, this is exactly not the side view. Let me try this. I don't know how well this is going to work. Let's grab you, you, and you. I thought you might get a kick out of that, Gavin. And let me turn off smooth, and let's just start to pull out across the shoulder a little bit. About like so. And this allows me, this should make Gavin kind of happy, to grab this face and delete it and then replace it with a quad.
Yeah.
And then we could grab this vert and this vert and...
Oh, good.
What are you going on about?
I thought you were setting me up for a fall then. I thought you were going to grab that edge and that edge and make another triangle.
No. Nothing so whatever that would be. Nothing so whatever it would be for me to do something like that. Maybe start to pull this in a little bit. Let's take a look in the front view. No, I don't need to pull that back in at all, actually. This needs to come back out. Turn on proportional editing a little bit and pull down its radius quite a bit. Pull that out. This needs to come out a little bit as well. Or not. And we'll keep this really tight to the edge of the shoulder for now. And this can start to make a nice flow across the arm to the back. Now, once we get to making the arm, we'll probably have to add some extra edges in here, but I'm going to try to avoid that until the last minute. Essentially, when we start to put arms into the model itself. For now, it's just way too early. I am curious, how are we doing on the overall shape of the bosom area? I feel like we probably need the shape to kind of lift upward a little bit and through here. So I think that's rounding out a little more nicely. We could go for a little bit more indentation underneath, and there's a couple of different ways we can tackle that. We could have an edge loop that runs all the way around. That's certainly one way to deal with the problem. Another way would be to anchor off an edge strip that went right into the armpit. That's a common way I've seen that solved. Let me just play for a minute. In the worst cases, I get it wrong and end up having to just do it again. So I'm going to hit Control S before I do anything, so if I need to jump back to a previous version, I can do that. But let me see here. If I grab this edge and hit X and just... Actually, hang on. let me do this before I do anything crazy, because I'm about to do some fun stuff with the knife tool and geometry. Let me do a quick ready check for folks who are ready for me to get to this point. Okay, so I'm going to hit X and dissolve out these faces, and then let's be clever. Let's hit the knife tool and cut this straight up to here. And then we could use the knife tool again and cut this straight up to here. And that's pretty cool. And then this leads us to what would end up being an edge spiral if we went up this way. So we got to kind of watch out for that. We actually, let me do some things real quick. We could pull this edge back like so, and that just kind of opens up for a lot more detail. Let's grab knife tool again, carve up to here. By the way, I reserve the right to remove any and all of this detail at any point. What'd you have, Gav?
I was going to say, if you undo that last one and go from the next one to the right straight up.
Yeah.
No, hang on, wait.
I mean,
yeah, from the one below that one up to the one there. Would that work?
It will, but it makes for a really wonky quad. I mean, a quad that I wouldn't be all that thrilled with. Particularly this guy.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I would try to avoid that if I could. I'd be much more interested in, like, if I absolutely had to, in doing something kind of like this. So go ahead and drop this in. Let me reshape some vertices. These can slide back a little bit. This can probably slide back a little bit. Let me get out of ortho view so I can get a clearer idea of my depth, because I've lost a lot of it. This can start to sweep upward, as can this. And then, I mean, you can do that. And that just sets you up for, I mean, you have one tentative triangle which you may be able to resolve once you get to making an arm.
Yeah, I think I'll probably go away in the armpit somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, because you could anchor it off in the arm eventually, and just right now not really stress too much about it. But let me jump over here to a front view and kind of see how things are lining up. I feel like we have a minimum amount of detail actually in the bosom area, and that's okay, really. I mean, if we don't need it, let's not add it. But I just feel like there's maybe something kind of lacking to the shape, so I'm just sort of inferring this and just kind of doing the artistic thing. I pull these up. If we put this away, I feel like we will need some more detail moving up to the collarbone area, and there's a nice little trick that you can use for that, and that is to do something about like so, and then cut that again over to here. And so we can actually use this to get a little bit of that separation in between the breasts, which is nice. It allows us to more cleanly trace out the collarbone area, which will also be good. I think I'm seeing my problem. I think some of this stuff needs to be pulled over and kind of centered up a little bit. And these need to all be kind of pulled forward. We're kind of spreading out too much in this direction. And you also need to keep an eye on your depth view, because working too much in orthographics is it's crazy. And it's too easy to do, in my opinion, but, you know, they didn't ask me.
Feels to me like the front of the armpit edge, the edge loop around the edge needs to come in. Yeah, about there. Needs
to what? You didn't actually finish your sentence.
Well, you were already starting to do it. Probably come in a bit and to go backwards towards the back. Because that's one of those sort of human anatomy things that people tend not to think about, is your shoulder comes off the back half of your body, not the center line, if you see what I mean.
Right.
Profile. I know you know what I mean.
I know exactly what you mean. I see now I can get my curvature here more from the front of the breast and not from the corner where it should already be anchoring back into the body, and that's actually a good thing. So I'm just doing a little bit of a trade-off with the geometry as to who's getting the most weight for the outside of the shape. And I just kind of center these up a little bit. And take a look at the back. I feel like that indentation's a little deep, so we'll pull that out. And I'm feeling like we've got a pretty nice arrangement of initial detail. The only thing I might do, I mean, I could argue we could probably take this edge here and do a bevel. But really that's just to anchor in a little bit more detail than what we had. I think now would be a good time to kind of double check and see where we're pulling away from the drawing and what we can do about that. So that's what I'm going to do now. So you can thicken that up.
Yeah, it is easy to fall into that trap early on of almost letting the detail control where it goes rather than deciding yourself where you want detail when you're smoothing.
Right, and you don't really want to get into that. So what I'm doing right now is I'm aligning the shape to the breasts, actually, and then I can grab the chest, which is going to be wider toward the back anyway, and I can start to pull that out to get the actual thickness of the upper torso. So let's pull this down, and you see how it basically leaves the breast alone but gives us a wider rib cage, which is closer to what we're actually kind of chasing there. And then we could take a look at what's going on up here, and we don't have a lot to work with here, and it's a little too soon to stress about it, but I mean, what we have is already starting to line up fairly nicely. We'll probably end up needing this, so I'll add it now, knowing that, I mean, it's too soon to be adding it, but I'm just looking for something to do, I think. We can line... it happens, you know.
This has all gone too well.
Yeah, it happens. I was actually expecting there to really need to be a lot more work and tweak and worry over certain things, and I'm just not getting it, so, you know. So yeah, I mean, I've got a really nice shape pretty much right here that if I wanted to, I could probably just stop my modeling process for this video, I think like right here at this point, and be okay.
I think that's about as far as you got with the other one.
Yeah.
With the previous class.
It just kind of happened a little more smoothly and quickly. So what I'm going to do is just kind of hang out and answer some questions for a few minutes, and then we'll go ahead and wrap things up. Because, I mean, really, we're really early here, so you guys can keep on working, and then if you need assistance with anything, or if you have questions, I'll see that you get your full time out of this. But sometimes the modeling process just works for you.
Yeah, there's been some discussion in BuzzNet about what you mean by an edge spiral.
Oh, yeah. Well,
for those who don't know.
Yeah, it's easy to talk about and sometimes tricky to demonstrate, and I really don't want to muck too much with my geometry just for the purposes of showing it off. But when you add...
If you try a loops...
Yeah,
sorry.
I mean, if I just start...
If you try a loop selection from the triangle that you've got, you're bound to have one somewhere there because there's a triangle.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, it's usually pretty good about not doing that. It won't cut across a triangle. It's essentially what happens when... well, I can kind of simulate one, I think. Let me save my work. Get out of here. Save before I do anything else. Let's see here. If I grab my knife tool, and put a point right there. Did that create a point for me? I may need to split and then delete the edge, but that's okay too. Okay. I'll switch to this edge and then just nuke it, because what I want is this guy. Now, you may have to use your imagination to come with me a little bit here. But if I switch over to edges, let's say I want to continue this on, right? And let's go to, oh, I don't know, about here. I can extrude out. I can merge these two vertices. Alt-M at last. And now, do you see what's happening already with the geometry? If you don't, let me continue and then you'll start to see it, I'm sure. Control Edge. I've actually just created an edge spiral.
Yeah, if you try and run a Control R around it now.
Yeah, I'm gonna go a little bit deeper into it so that the spiral becomes a lot more obvious. But we can extrude. Boom. Actually, that's a terrible extrusion. Let me extrude out to about here. And then switch over to vertices, grab these two, Alt-M at last. And now if I put an Alt-R, or sorry, Control-R right here, see how the edge is spiraling? That's an edge spiral.
And that's actually quite a user-friendly one.
Yeah,
they can go shooting off all around your model,
yeah,
particularly if you've had to anchor verts off.
Some are very nasty depending on what you've had to do to solve some of your triangles. So you can see here how the edge just goes kind of toward the center of the character, and it never stops, and that's generally a bad thing. And I should be able to just take this guy and dissolve him, and then we should be essentially right back where we left off. So that's what an edge spiral is, for those of you who want to know one. It's an edge that really will spiral down your geometry. And I'm not saying that those are the worst thing in the world, but they can be really hard to work with if you're still kind of wrapping up the modeling process.
And it's one of those things where if you were, intending to model a really high-res, anatomically accurate human being, you'll find that actually then it becomes a useful thing, because the topology flow of skin around the body, and under the tension it is, can be of that sort of.
Right. I mean, sometimes you can use them to your advantage.
Nature. But yeah, it's one of those gotchas when you're first modeling.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I would try to avoid them most of the time. Occasionally, I think you might run into circumstances where you just kind of have to have one, or you may have like an edge, like a. Let me see if I can make something like this happen. If I hit Control R here, see how we're sort of wrapping up over the top of the shoulder? Now, if I didn't have a hole at the top of the shoulder, say for instance, I grabbed, I don't know, this will probably be really messy, so bear with me. But if I grab edges and made a face, not saying I'd ever want to do this, but I mean, you could. I mean, that is kind of a viable form of geometry. But now if I hit Control R, you see what we're getting? We're actually spiraling around the geometry all the way back underneath the crotch, back around the front of the chest, and back up to where the collarbones meet. So if I right-click and kind of pull away so you can see all of that, hit Control R again. So yeah, it's just a question of how your edges are going to solve themselves. I generally try to avoid them, and whenever I find them, I try to fix them and get rid of them. They can also be kind of a pain in the butt when you're trying to texture out your models, so definitely watch out for that.
Actually, have you ever? I'm intrigued to know how well Blender would handle that with its automatic.
Oh, it should be okay.
Because it's going to end up, it's going to
Yeah.
have that thing of all these paths that go all over your geometry.
Yeah, and sometimes you got to do some clever things with where your patch seams are going to be. But overall, it'll be all right. It's just if you want nice clean seams that look, just like sleeves of a shirt or something, then you want to try to avoid that as much as possible.
Have you paused the video?
No, absolutely not.
It's still recording.
Yeah, because I'm doing a little bit of tweaking and whatnot, so I might as well capture it. I can just kind of sit here and work on, the spine a little bit and. Grab edges, maybe pull these out a little bit.
Actually, for those of you who are here at the moment, the link I've just posted in BuzzNet is from an amateur artist, but professional, well, at the time he made them, student surgeon. And there's sets there on various parts of anatomy, but I think the set's called something like locomotive anatomy. There's a whole load of videos of him, and he's quite a talented amateur artist, and he literally draws out the bones, tells you which bones are what, and
that's cool.
It's a really, really nice set of videos for anatomy for modelling, really.
Yeah, very cool.
Because it shows you where all the muscles...
Oh, wait. I know that set. Yeah, that's a great set.
It's an amazing set. The drawings are phenomenal. The level of detail, fully... And when you start looking at some of the non-modelling, it's like the internal anatomy.
Right.
Heart, fully detailed model, pictures of things. But yeah, really, really, really good set, that. The hyper-highs one there.
Did you see what I did there, Gav?
Yay.
That's just for you, man.
It's not listed on the featured playlists page for me, so you have to go to uploaded videos probably. Oh yeah, there we go. And then you're looking for... where is it? Well, basically there's whole sets on muscles and any structural anatomy that's there. Where's the... Let me open this. There we go. If you go to that other link that I posted, that's the one with all of his... And yeah, muscular system and skeletal system are the two playlists you want.
Not the skeletal system, mind you, but the skeletal system. Just so everybody's on the level.
Don't get me started with that. I have to work with Nelson.
I know.
Drives me nutty. Really. There's one subsequent. He says subsequent. Keeps getting on my nerves. As memory serves, the first couple of videos in that series are quite shaky, handheld, and slightly blurry. Don't get put off by that. He gets better at the camera work as they go on.
Yeah, it happens. I know how that is.
Well, it's very easy, particularly with YouTube. You go there and you go, oh, no, you give it about 10 seconds and go, oh no, I can't understand a thing.
Right,
and that's, find another one.
That is kind of a nasty habit to fall into, because sometimes there's really good stuff on YouTube. It's just not always apparent what the good stuff is and isn't. If you just, it's like judging a TV show based on its first episode. Sometimes you just shouldn't do that.
I think that was better before.
Yeah, probably. It's just a little bit over-creased right now, but... This is called over-tweaking, what I'm doing right now.
That's why I thought I'd say something, because...
Well, I mean, I've already saved, so it's real easy for me to just, jump back. But I just wanted to try it, because really, I don't want to get, tight creases in just about anywhere. I want everything to stay relatively smooth for this first character.
Like.
Yeah. And a lot of this stuff will just get tweaked again. We'll get an arm flowing into this, and then it'll make sense to revisit this and make sure that everything is tweaked out nicely. But right now, there's such a great thing about modeling the human body is that we rely, without meaning to, so heavily on landmarks. We know that one thing looks right because we look at it relative to something else. And so when you're first modeling out any character, when you get to this stage, there's not a whole lot of landmarks. There's not a lot to work with, and so it's very difficult to figure out, does this look exactly right, and so on and so forth. That's why it's always really amazing when you see just a really nicely sculpted torso, like when you see a stone carving or something. That's what'll really catch you, because you'll go oh, that looks just right, and you weren't, it's not based off of anything else. But I do find that when I'm modeling, I often want to base the proportion or sides of this off of some other object.
And Marengo is, of course, right. Grey's Anatomy is what?
Yeah.
But it is hugely expensive. And a lot of it isn't relevant to what...
Yeah, there's probably a lot more there than what you really need.
Really, you only need this... In fact, isn't it in volumes nowadays? Don't they do it as a multi-volume, structural... Or is that another set? I can't remember.
I don't remember. I know you can find some used copies of it lying around, but med students are notorious for selling their copies of it. Okay, so I think we're pretty much wrapped, folks. I'll give everybody about 5 to 10 to kind of get a few last-minute questions in or to wrap up their models. And of course, your homework for this week is really just to finish this portion of the modeling, in case you're curious about that sort of thing.
And for anyone coming to these videos later, the links, the image plane links are actually in the forum homework thread.
Right.
As well, as they stand at the moment. Obviously, depending on how far in the future you come, they may no longer work. But
I'll see that we... if they end up getting moved, then I'll just change the video description to update where they end up.
Mm-hmm. I was going to say to everyone, because I've noticed, I think it was VREX started a whip already. It's great to start whips and get people's critiques from other people in the forums, but there's no need to start a whip for each separate weeks, because you're going to be carrying on with the same model. Keep it in the same whip, please.
Streeter needs praise, I think. So, let's see. Can you shade up the view, please? And show me the smooth version. I mean, I feel like you're probably not... Check out the side view, actually, real quick, and that'll tell me most of what I need to know right there. Yeah, you can see how you're not following the surface very well just yet. It's coming along nicely for starters, but... of course, at the front of the bosom area, you've got things flattened out. If you're trying to follow these image planes precisely, you could just pull some vertices out there, and that would start to form much more cleanly, I think. Overall, though, I think you got a really good start. Also, watch the thighs. Take a look at the front of the thigh right now where it's starting to form. No, go back to the side view. Take a look at the front of the thigh. See how far back you are? You're going to want to adjust that. Also, go into X-ray view. Check out the hole at the back of the thigh, basically where that seam ends. See how far back that is from where the thigh would actually become the buttock right there? See, all of that would need to be pulled forward as well. I mean, it looks like you've got essentially all the detail that you need, and a lot of this geometry is going to change its flow and move around quite a bit while we model, but I think you got a really nice start overall. And I guess with that, we can go ahead and jump back over to my screen, because now we're looking at Windows.
You could look at my wing and tell me I haven't got enough geometry in it.
No, I don't think I'm going to do that. All right, folks, so that is going to wrap up tonight's class. Thank you all for attending. Again, tonight's the homework, as for this week, is just going to be to get this part of the torso modeled out. There is no class next week. I will be out of town, so I will be rejoining you guys week after. So you have a week off to kind of get things cleaned up and practice your modeling skills. If you want to tackle another simple project, then I totally support that. However, I will catch you all during the next class. Thank you all very much, and I will talk to you all soon. Good night, all.
Bye, guys.